leadership engagement session on workplace innovation was hosted today in Lagos, focusing on the Millennials. Convened by Nduneche Ezurike, Head Brand Management and Communications, Skye Bank, it brought together stakeholders from the communications, human capacity development, and financial market space. Giving an overview of his presentation, which covered a research on employee engagement, Mr. Ezurike shared further insights on the dynamics of the employee marketplace as it affects millennials.
Employee engagement is not an activity, it's an activation. Because one of the challenges I probably will face at the point of doing research is that some people in HR took me on and said, this is an HR function. I said, this is not strictly an HR function. Perhaps during the era we talked about, it was an HR function. But now, employee engagement is an activation. You must activate, you must structure and do the campaign the way you want it to achieve what you want to achieve. You don't take it for granted because somebody comes to work early means that he's a dedicated employee. Some of you are CEOs and entrepreneurs. You know what I'm talking about. If you don't activate it, you're not going to get that result. Now, this is the concept I call the employee marketplace. The employee marketplace is a concentric circle. If you understand how a concentric circle is, it comes from a common source of origin. If you see what I'm talking about here, you will see that I am seeking to bring together product creators, getting insight from professionals who represent adjacent and distant fields. Now, you cannot engage employees in an organization if you do not break the silo. Most of the time, we work from answer to question. So because you work from answer to question, you have it in your mind what you expect to achieve, so you keep on doing the same thing and expecting different results. So by the time I share this, you will take time and study it and probably critique it. What I'm simply saying is that the foundation of employee engagement in modern times is bordered more on communication, collaboration, and community. Communication, collaboration, and community. And you must activate these pillars for it to give you the outcome you desire. This sample is based on the banking industry. Of course, there are a lot of things one can adapt outside the industry, but this is exactly where it is. You could see clearly there, typically what you will see is that you probably will have, either you have marketing communication or HCM. You see me telling you that whether you have the customer engagement, human resources, information technology, marketing communication, even products and sales, are very critical in driving this process. Because what happens is that when you finish your own, somebody will wait for you to come and explain what you are doing. And by the time you finish, God help you, he may have his own mindset. So you probably have wasted so much time in trying to design a process that you want to work. So if you are seeking to engage employees, you must take time to study the employee marketplace, a concept I have tried to put together to interpret what constitutes modern engagements. Innovation, as often defined in our economy, in this climate, is the acquisition of technology. That's why most times you can never hear innovation without hearing technology. In fact, what you hear is technology and innovation. So institutions have disempowered themselves. Human beings have become passive elements in the production chain. It's about technology. So institutions are struggling to change apps every day. You have an app fatigue. You have an app fatigue. There's no conscious effort to even make human beings become the key drivers of this process. This is the heart of this presentation. If we are to ask people now, what do you say about the millennials? And I did, and I got a lot of comments. They're as exciting as they are disturbing at some point. The truth of the matter is that whether you like it or not, never in the history of man or mankind, depending on what you want to say, have we had the level of explosion of ideas we have had in this era. So the conversation is a very deep one. What do you do with the millennials? The millennials have come to stay. It's not so much about what you think, it's about what you can do to harness this group of people. If you really want to take a very serious look at the millennials, that means you even need to talk about the values, the attitudes, and expectations. Apart from the generic ideas about millennials being digital savvy, individualistic, and all sorts, man, there's something I call the Afrillennials. The Afrillennials are victims of corruption. The Afrillennials are the young people who were in their house. Their father was telling them that you should be very dutiful, you should love your country, you should work hard. One day the man came back without salary, he was sacked. The Afrillennial is the one who stays in his house, working so hard. His father is telling him about deferred gratification. The person by his house who does not go to work is a millionaire. Do you understand what I'm saying? The Afrillennial has over time realize that most of the things we are telling them are lies. Not because we are lying, but because there's a lot of contradiction. So he wakes up every morning, and he's listening to you, but his mind is not there. He's watching the car that is passing. Yeah. Because he knew the guy 2 years ago. So it is not just enough to condemn the millennials or even their freelenials. In fact, some of them, I call them the Avengers. The Avengers because of this attitude, values, and expectations, they don't send. The way they reason, sometimes you begin to wonder what is the problem. But the truth of the matter is that, because we have most of them here, including those who are millennials at heart, or by circumstance. So the truth of the matter is that, and I'm challenging all of us here, we must go back and research about the millennials. We must ask ourselves, what is it all about? You'll be amazed some of the things you discover. It is within this era, you taught your children that it takes 5 years to run a business. Within 3 weeks, some businesses have already started making profit. So the contradictions are too many. So the person goes out every day, he's struggling with trying to reconcile what his parents told him and what he sees and what he experiences. So when you see some of the things, say we are so quick to dismiss them. Meanwhile, we are the problem sometimes. We must make out our time, even at the level of parenting. So I have given, these are some of the things I tried to put together here, depending on the generation you're talking about. You could see a millennial in Nigeria is affected by a lot of factors. Most of them are not even contemplated by Western literature. So when you are engaging the person, you need to have these things at the back of your mind. Now, I ask the question, do you think your organization's current way of doing things has consideration to your personal interests and career goals? If you see the millennials in a color that looks like yellow, you will see what they are saying. You can have a fair idea of what they are saying. You can also see the non-millennials, if you want to use that word, to make it easy. Millennials think organizations' activity do not consider their best interests in career progression and personal interests. Part of one of the things that informed this research, like I said earlier, is the fact that I woke up every day in the last 5 to 10 years, I hear about customer engagement. I don't hear about employee engagement. I hear about artificial intelligence. I don't hear about emotional intelligence. I hear about digital-first strategy. I don't hear about talent-first strategy. I hear about consumer life cycle. I don't hear about employee life cycle. So suddenly there's a drift. As exciting as it is, employee issues are being discussed as given. So the employee is not being seen as a talent and a resource. He's seen as a passive partner who takes his salary and goes home at the end of the month and comes back again. Does your bank often include and measure employee-related goals as part of product campaigns? The answer 73 says yes. What is the most important challenge you have faced in managing strategic internal communication within the last 1 year? You can see employee buy-in and effective leadership. These two things still show that the work has just begun. There's so much to be done. Whatever strategy we apply, I know is not working, obviously. I'm sure it's not working. Employee engagement in the era of the millennials. Like I said, communication, collaboration, and community are the three things that you need to understand at the implementation level to be able to drive effective employee engagement within your organization. It's not so much about motivation and satisfaction. As important as they are, you need to understand this. This employee analytics. If institutions based on the credit scores of customers can define somebody who can fail to repay, why can't we begin to take seriously the issue of employee analytics? The best I seem to see in most human resources departments is gender and perhaps what? Age. Is it not possible for us to understand that within the age of dispersed employees, virtual workers, hard-to-reach employees, physically challenged, we need a lot more data. We need to begin to work with marketing technology companies to begin to grind the data we have in-house. Some appointments are even made with the wrong people. There must be a deliberate effort to sit back and analyze and profile employees beyond gender and job function. You'll be amazed how much you can get, because we're talking about the age of talents. You can never understand and get the best of the talents if you do not embark on this process. So it's a challenge also for the human resources department to begin to look at the data they have. How much of it can speak to the issues within the organization? Are they just there for hiring, firing, and promotion? Is it just about workforce and manpower? What is the effort in trying to harness this data to be able to get the best from individuals who are talents? And very importantly too, if you have this data, it will definitely enable you to understand how best to mobilize employees. I say that because from my own experience, when you send mails to every employee sometimes, you get some form of negative feedback. If you can really segment and send to the right people, you're likely going to get better results because you have data to show that the mail I'm sending, this person does not need it. If you look at the area of product activation, the same thing. Leadership communication, change management, and open innovation. So I'm only challenging that we should, even what I call the basic click-through rate. Click-through rate essentially, like you know, is that what is the average number of people who click the mails you send? Do you sit back to analyze? Do you know the average click-through rate of your organization at the level of policy, advocacy, general awareness, product communication? You need to have that data. If you have that data, you can be able to say, look, from where I am right now, the average click-through rate of product communication materials is 30% or 40%. So these are the kind of information you need to also begin to put in place to be able to enable you to effectively engage the millennials within the organization. This is an era of consumerism and individualism. Employees are asking you, what is the need for me? Now, self-interest is very critical, not selfish interest. They're not the same thing. You must define, people are seeking to define their self-interest in whatever you're bringing to the table. If we are doing promos for the world, come and win this. Who says employees cannot win these things? They're asking questions. Why can't we win all these gifts? So you need to also begin to ask yourself those questions. Interrogate what we have at the moment in organizations. What kind of programs do you put in place to target employees to get excited? Because like we said, it's a consumerized employee process we're dealing with now, especially with the millennials. And it's not going to go away soon. It is important for us to understand that for you to be, you can be digitally smart, but you must be emotionally intelligent. You can talk about blockchain, robotics, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, but the heart of the employee, the interest of the employee is very critical for him to understand where you're going to. Because if he doesn't know where your destiny is, he may never put in his best.
The convener speaks further on the key issues around the research and presentation on employee engagement that focused on the banking sector.
I talk about three things. Number one is that the leadership must seek to unlearn itself and redesign their thinking. Because it is not just enough to talk about the strategy of millennials. There must be a deliberate effort. I give you an instance where people come to work, they don't greet you. Meanwhile, you're used to being greeted for 20 years. Somebody suddenly does not greet you. In fact, you greet him, he doesn't even respond. So there's a lot of attitudinal shift. So leadership must unlearn themselves. They must resign our attitude of dealing with this issue. Leadership must also break the silo. There's a lot of silos that make it difficult for people to understand. At the end of the day, those silos seem to challenge and compromise innovation. Because innovation is the key word here. Innovation is what is important. It's not so much about how long you stay. The millennials are more like disloyal, if I want to use that word. They're not attached to anything. They are trying to see how they can manifest their talent. It was in this generation that somebody did talent hunt and won millions, somebody did scholarship and did not win anything. So there's a lot of contradictions we must address as leaders in the industry. So there also should be an intentional effort to go the long haul. Because if you're not intentional about it, you start it and abandon it midway. When leadership change hands, it should be part of the organizational DNA, the policy system and all that. So leadership has a major role to play. But it's a partnership. It's not about blame game. So you don't kill the millennials. You must work with them.
With the projection that millennials, according to a recent KPMG UK report, will constitute 72% of the global workforce by 2025, understanding how to engage them will be vital for organizations.